Greetings, David Morgan here, and I'm doing a video here on some idea work, brainstorming, whatever you want to call it, just to demonstrate basically how you can use very simple or inexpensive software, or even free software like Libre Office here, to do some of this idea working, this brainstorming, whatever you want to call it. I hate the term brainstorm. Now, I was working originally on creating some avatars for Twitter. My Twitter feed has a lot of contributions from people that are dealing with secular issues. Some of them are even atheist, and my viewpoint is primarily humanist. So for example, this one here is mine. You can't have it. But these other avatars that I'm putting together are going to be made available on the web on my blog. And once I put those up, I'll put up a notice. But in the meantime, one of the things that I started working with was the idea of stacking the words on top of each other so they're essentially the same width overall. And one of the things I wanted to work with was a larger phrase, and so I came up with, what part of equal don't you understand? This one here. And so what I did was copy paste to create this one. And I then changed equal to blue and U to red so that they would better stand out and also work as a form of emphasis. Now there's 32 characters here. That's divisible by 8, which yields 4 rows. So what I'm going to do then is come in and copy this one. Control C, Control V, and then Shift down arrow to move it down. When I do Shift down arrow, they move down exactly vertically. I don't have to worry about the alignment. So let's do it again. Control V and Control, whoops, not Control, next is Shift down arrow. So I'm going to need 4 rows. I always like to create 4 extra, not involve the original, because if something goes wrong, I can then go back to the original. So I'm going to need 2 more rows, and Shift down arrow. And this is all very rough, essentially seeing if the idea will work. I'm not even sure it will at this point. Now, it could be argued, and let me address that right now, that I could just simply go in here. Let's move down a little bit here. And simply go, okay, so we go 8 characters over and hit return, and then another 8 characters over, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and hit return. But the big problem is you can't adjust the leading, the space that's in between the lines. That, unfortunately, is one of the drawbacks of LibreOffice Draw. So I counter that by turning each one of these lines into a separate object. And what I do is I'll go in here. Let's see, that's the original. Let's move all these down just a minute here. I always like to put a little bit of distance between them just to prevent me from accidentally including the original. So then we go in here, what part, that's 8 spaces over, Shift and delete, and then escape so it becomes an object again instead of text. So we've got a text frame or object frame. And then I'll go down to the next line and I'll do Shift Home, delete, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then Shift End, delete. You see where I'm going with this. And equal, okay, so we go there, we go home, then we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, Shift End, delete, escape out of that, select the next one, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, there, Shift Home, delete, and there we go. Excuse me, I had to put it on pause because I needed to clear my throat and I didn't want to blow your eardrums out. Alright, so now what we do is we then handle the leading or the distance between the lines manually. There, a little bit closer. Okay, that's good. Come in with this one, go closer. There are actually ways where you can address the distance between them using, for example, right mouse click, and then you can work on positioning and size and actually enter in numbers. But here, since the output is going to be an image rather than printed text, I'm not too worried about the spacing being microscopically exact. You do need to worry about that on printing because you're doing cross-platform, and so accuracy is vital. For small adjustments, by the way, instead of going up-down arrow, you go Alt, and then you can move in little tiny increments. Up a little bit closer, then here, Alt, a little closer. So this way you can do a very quick, rough, escape there to turn it into an object, Alt, move up. You can do a quick, rough alignment to check proof of concept, so to speak. So you can see here how equal now stands out, and the U stands out as well. Originally, I was thinking of making the colors muted so that they're not too blatant, but I may have to change my mind on that. Let's highlight equal. We're going to go up and change the color to a more brilliant blue, a brighter blue, like so, and change the U to a brighter red, a fire engine red in effect here. Let's go here. Okay, that unfortunately creates too much contrast. This is so bright as compared to the black that it's almost like you can only, the first thing you read is equal U, which is not the intent. The real intent of this is that with everything so close together, it makes the eye pause and then try to scan more closely. In other words, it makes the person pay attention. And the equal and U then stand out in slight contrast to that. So I can either mute the colors, which as you saw earlier wasn't working too well, or I could perhaps come in and let's take this line, Control A, nope, not that, go back in there, there we go, Control A, let's change it to a green, let's say for example dark green. I always like working with simple colors. That's looking pretty interesting. So let's go in here. And this, as you can see, again, this is very rough. This is like, let's take a look at this and see how it works. But the whole time, it's not shooting blind. You're actually working with principles of design. In this case, we're looking at proximity and contrast. Now here, because the black is too extreme of a contrast, we're trying a slightly different color shade, such as green, to see how it better contrasts with the blue and the U. Alright, so the green is now more distinctive because it's not black, and the equal and U are still very distinctive. What happens if I go back to the original muted color? The red, for example, was here. The dark, excuse me, I need darker green. Hang on a sec, here we go. Darker blue, my mistake. The blue is that. Work with a very simple color palette, particularly when you're doing the concept. And then you can adjust the color varieties and shades and tones and everything like that later. Go to the darker red here. Now that's looking pretty good. So what part of equal don't you understand? So we're getting a very good basic idea. The proof of concept works. I'm going to have to do more tweaking and tuning in terms of perhaps the spacing and the color arrangements, but the basic color scheme looks good. And so at this point I say, okay, now we need to work to develop it further.